Today we have several co-hosts with us. This is Kelly, Lola, Princess is back here, Max, and Jazz. And you'll meet their owners later on, and you'll see a lot of these guys and gals in the show. The name of today's program is What Makes Your Dog Tick and Other Miscellany. We'll be starting with some review. You'll see that threaded throughout the program, and we want to build a foundational line upon line so that we can remind you of what we've talked about in prior programs, as well as then demonstrate what we've been teaching and show you exactly how it's done. And the instructional portion, we're going to take it a step further so that you can apply these techniques that belong to your dog and carry them over into your personal relationships as well. Stay tuned. I'm going to talk to you about the foundation, the basement. You'll notice some review woven and threaded throughout the program for those of you who have tracked with us up to this point. This is the innate makeup of your dog. And the reason why this one is so very important is that if you don't understand this, grasp it, and believe it, you simply won't carry out these techniques. Now, a dog, Max here, is first of all an animal. Always think of your dog as an animal first, then a dog, and then the breed, Golden Retriever, and then Max. What we like to deal with most of all, because it makes up 75% of your dog, is the animal and dog portion. For a dog, walking is serious business, and Michelle will talk to you about that in just a few moments. Now, when you think of a dog, think wolf. They're cousins. Their DNA is very similar. You can barely detect any difference if you look at them in a microscope. And I want to show you a DVD that I find very helpful to understanding dogs. It's called Living with Wolves by Jim and Jamie Dutcher. Jim is a wonderful cinematographer. He's done a beautiful job in this, and I highly recommend that you take a look at it for your understanding of your dog. I was just watching it the other day, and I'm always not only impressed with the way that it's put together, but how it helps me to understand the dogs. The key is migrating for food. Those wolves have to go out and back every day, sometimes up to 150 miles. The way wolves integrate with each other is very much the way that you would see a feral pack of dogs integrating with each other as well. The dominance, the submission, the pack leader, the followers. Dogs need leadership, and you're that pack leader. If you don't give that to them, they'll have no other recourse but then to rise up on top and make themselves the pack leader to keep everything smooth and balanced. I want to show you, can we get in here again? We just filmed a program this summer, almost parallel with this one, called Start 'em Out Right Puppy Training. And we didn't know it at the time, but Michelle got, not only on film, but through her camera, photos, she got the puppies. What we looked at, we thought they were playing. But Lucky is the dog on this side. He's this one. And this is Chester. We used him a lot in the program. He's bigger. Lucky was a runt, and he was also very sick at the beginning, and he was picked on quite a bit by the dogs in their little pack. There were 8 Golden Retrievers. We got to work with them that day, for 2 days in a row at 6 weeks old, and it was just a wonderful experience. Now you'll notice here that Chester is doing a dominance ritual with Lucky. And what that means is he's exerting his dominance, his leadership, his authority over Lucky. Right here, he's going, I hope I'm holding this steady enough, he's going in for the throat because it's done. The dominance ritual is done on the throat, and they put the dogs down on their side. This is demonstrated beautifully in the wolf DVD. So there he goes as a 6-week-old puppy. There's the bite right there. It's not they know not to bite to hurt. It won't hurt. It hurts, but not to cause damage such as needing stitches. And then I want to not get this in the sun. And then one on the leg for good measure. Now they just nip each other just about everywhere. The point being to show you this, it starts young. It is innate. It is God-given from day one. And as soon as they can get up and toddle around, they start in on this. The owner and breeder, Julie Moget, told me that they had been doing this for quite a while because Lucky was the runt. He was being picked on quite a bit. And I explained this to her, and it made her feel a little bit better that that's actually very natural behavior. Now, dogs only follow a calm, assertive leader. So try to keep your emotions in check. Try not to be overbearing all the time, angry all the time, fearful all the time. Now, as we go through the day, we have emotional ups and downs and sometimes some real upheavals. That's just fine. Actually, dogs can be a real best friend during those times. But they do follow your calm, assertive leadership, and that can help them then to be the calm, submissive follower. There again, just extreme energy is perceived as weakness by the dog, and they need to keep the pack balanced, so they will rise up and go up over the top and become the pack leader for you if you won't give that to them.
And now for the walk. The structured walk is central and key in your relationship with your dog. It drains his nervous energy rather than increases it. It establishes your leadership over your dog, and it's his deepest connection with you, more so than the lovey and cuddly on the couch. It's also the most important job you can give your dog, and it's the way your dog learns to be a dog, by migrating with you, his pack leader. Fish swim, birds fly, dogs walk. It's that important. Ideally, your walk should be 30 to 45 minutes long, 2 times per day, and it starts when you first think about it. Take the leash out quietly and don't get your dog overly excited. Your dog should be calm before each phase and before you move forward. You'll need to enter and exit in front of your dog in any major doorway at all times. Now, this does not mean every doorway in your home, just the major ones: front door, back door, garage door, etc. During your walk, you'll want to keep your dog at side or slightly behind you to establish your pack leadership. Also during your walk, you'll want to give your dog about a 5-minute break halfway through the walk to sniff, roam, and walk on ahead. Always be sure to keep your dog on a leash, unless of course you are absolutely certain that your dog will return to you.
We've talked to you about the innate makeup of a dog and the structured walk, and of course their importance. Now we want to show you how that looks.
All right, now when you meet a dog for the first time and this dog is a stranger to you, give the dog some space. Let him realize that you belong in that space as well, and establish your pack leadership right from the beginning with no touch, no talk, and no eye contact. When he warms up to you, if he warms up to you, give him a little bit of affection. Do not gush by any means, just a little bit. If he is overbearing with you, give him a bite, cupped hand under the chin to back him off, and then ignore him. Do not give him affection when he is in an unbalanced frame of mind. Now you may be wondering why we at Walks and Wags adhere to no touch, no talk, and no eye contact, when the rest of the world seems to do it just fine. The reason is an extended hand from you to a dog only gives the dog cause to expect either a treat from you or cause to bite you. The second option doesn't sound too good now, does it? When you're on a walk with your dog, tell people who approach you to pet your dog that he is in training to deter them from greeting him.
When you want to intentionally have dogs meet dogs, it's important that you walk them side by side so that they can bond as a pack. Now, if you want to, you can be fairly far apart from each other and then just work your way in, as we'll show you here in just a few moments. If a dog meets another dog nose to nose, that can just be a perfect setup for a fight, depending on the nature of the dog and what they are going to do. Now if you have two dogs, maybe they aren't both yours, one might be yours and one might belong to a neighbor, somebody that you have to see on a regular basis. And let's say your dog does not like that neighbor dog. Get a towel or a blanket and rub it all over that neighbor dog and pick up the scent real well. Then bring it home and have that towel with you every time you do things with your dog that are affection-centered. Treats, playtime, massage, food, even the walk. So that your dog never sees that other dog, but he always has his scent during good times. Then, when you do see the other dog, plan on the owner of the dog and yourself going to a park and have those dogs, as I explained just a few moments ago, moving forward together, not side by side. One of you take one over here, another take one over there, and just walk forward in the same direction, turn around, walk back, but bring yourselves a little closer each sweep that you make until you are walking fairly close forward together, one dog on the outside of both owners. This will help these dogs to become a pack and bond, and your dog should sense, when he'll smell that dog again, he'll see him, he should connect it with something very pleasurable, and that can ultimately, not always, but it can bring two dogs together who once were enemies to be good friends. This is Kaylee, owned by Mike Rogers and his wife Joyce in Prescott. Now they can't be with us today on the program, but we sure thank them for allowing us to use Kaylee. They won't be in the outro or the closing time with all the groups, so we want to thank them now. I'm going to use Kaylee to demonstrate a few things. She's very rambunctious, and so I wanted to show you what we talk about a lot in terms of corrections on her. The mouth, first of all, with your hand is a great way to redirect your dog's energy and attention back to you. They get distracted. Kaylee? All right, now first of all, you just pull with the leash. She's got a correction leash on. It's a tug and release type leash. It is a prong collar. For her, that's the only thing that works, and it works pretty well. Now, if she was going to do something, she's settling down a little bit. Come here, come here. You want to get it right under here, right under the neck. When she would need it. So you would go no. You can go no, 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 no. You can pretty much get them just about anywhere. This, however, is the area of submission on a dog. Nope. Now, she was trying to take the leash in her mouth. Don't let them do that. There we go. And when she just starts to fuss a little, no. That's good. Now that just settled her down a little bit. This arm thing, this paw coming up on me, when your dog goes like this, that means they're trying to dominate you. It's not a hug. It's not a friendly thing like it would be with us. So just knock the hand down. Just take it down gently or firmly, whatever you have to do. Now, she's really not giving me much opportunity to, Kaylee, come here. She wants to jump. You can do a knee in the chest. No, like so. But it's always off. Down is when you want them to lay down. Off is when you want them to go off of you. Now, I want to get her down and I want to show you the dominance ritual. Oh, this is good. All right. I've got my hand here as a mouth, and we just don't want to let her have this leash because this is not a fun time. It's not a time where you share affection, but you're not scolding. My hand here is in a bite on her neck. I'm not strangling her, but I am keeping her down with it. Now you can also straddle your dog, not sit on them, but straddle in such a way that your legs are up, but it gives you just better leverage with the dog. If there's two of you, one of you might have to get on the front, one might have to get on the back to hold them down. We have had dogs that were so aggressive and they were biting that we have had to have 3 people almost across the dog at the same time. So it depends on the degree. She's not an aggressive dog at all. She's a honey, but she's just very rambunctious and overbearing, full of energy. This is your high energy dog right here. Now she's doing really well. So I want to mention quickly back to what I was saying about aggressive dogs. When you are dealing with an aggressive dog, use gloves that you know won't get bit through, and be sure to know what you're doing with this, because in the heat of the moment, they can turn and bite you, even though you're their owner and they may love you. If you need a trainer to come out, have that happen for you. This is your last resort, kind of go to guns measure, and we don't use this as a first resort of correction. I'm going to let her up. And she gets to come up because I said so. That's good. Sit. Good girl. That's good. Very good.
All right, now I'm going to show you some basic obedience commands, as well as how to leash your dog up when you go on your walk. Charlie, come. Sit. Have your dog on a sit or a calm stand before you leash him up. Do not get him excited in any sense. Put the leash over his head. Adjust it to right behind the ears. If you have the leash on the lower part of his chest, it gives him the brawn and him the power. If you have it up high just behind his ears, it gives you the advantage. Then you're ready for your walk. Now, on obedience commands, obedience will not help rehabilitate a dog with behavioral issues. However, it is a good idea to have it under your belt, and we strongly recommend it. So I'll demonstrate some of these for you. Sit, stay, down, stay, and of course, come. Charlie. Sit. Stay. Stay. Come. Sit. Sit. Down. Stay. Come. Oh. 8. No. If your dog does break a motion, give him a pop with the leash. Or if you don't have a leash on, a cupped hand under the chin. And then give him the command again. Sit. Stay. Come. Good boy. Do not be overly exuberant with your praise of your dog. Usually that will get him overexcited when you're trying to calm him down. If your dog has a tendency to sit on your feet or lean into you at any time during the day, be it while you're around the house or if you've given him the sit command, never let him do this. This is dominance for him and it gives him the advantage. Also, never move away from him. Move him away from you, giving you the upper hand.
If I haven't introduced him yet, this is Charlie, good friend of ours, and his owners are Ted and Sylvia Bailey. They were not able to be in the outro closing portion, and so we want to thank them now for allowing us to use Charlie in the show. Now this is a dog backpack, and as you can see, it's just that. It's like a saddle. It hooks up here, here, and then around here. And it's very easy to take off, put on and take off. Lots of various little pouches that you can store things for your dog if you're hiking, or that he can carry for you. Now with the dog backpack, besides its obvious accommodating quality to travel, it also gives your dog a job, and it helps to drain extra nervous energy from your dog. So for example, if you have an overbearing dog, unlike Charlie, or one that's very, very high energy, difficult to walk, maybe perhaps tends to be aggressive, put this on him. And depending on how small, they come in various sizes, small, medium, large, and extra large. Depending on how much your dog can take in terms of weight, load them up over time. It may take them a little time to get used to it. Over time they will. And when they've got, because dogs they're only in the moment. They live in the moment. And they can only think of one thing at a time. So when they've got that backpack on, they're concentrating on that. And that gives them the physical energy of the walk, but it also gives them the mental draining. And mental challenges for a dog are very important, making them wait and so forth. Like Charlie's distracted now by his owner. Sylvia's over there, and he knows it. But I'm not letting him go to her. He has to wait here with me. This is a mental drain right here, even though we're not actually walking. So these mental drains are very important. It adds more weight, so it's more physical, strenuous exercise as well. And you'll find that with a dog backpack, which is a very good investment, regardless of the size of your dog, you will have a happier dog that's more compliant for you. For nighttime walking, we recommend a reflector vest. Now this is mine actually that he has on, and you can do this. You can set it up so that they can wear your own. It's very inexpensive to purchase these. It's more costly if you purchase an actual dog reflector vest. But they do make them, and they really can make a difference of life or death if you're walking at night. We recommend it highly. The nature of this instructional portion will be slightly different than most. At the beginning of the show, I told you that we're going to take the techniques that we've been sharing with you from the beginning of all of the programs and putting them into practical application, even in regards to your family relationships. So this segment is entitled Family Matters or Family Dynamics. Now, one of the main reasons that people have problems with their dogs is that they're mismatched with the dog. But number two is that there was not an agreement in the family that there should be a new dog in addition to the family in the first place. So that's really critical. Approximately 80%, that's a very high percentile, 80% of the women, and sometimes their daughters, that we encounter in sessions, on the phone, people we may never see or meet, they may be just inquiries, all have wanted to have a dog problem because they brought it in without telling or asking their husband first. Now I even see that on the Dog Whisperer sometimes, on Caesar's show. Very often it is the woman, and I'm not trying to be critical to you gals. The men can certainly do this too, and sometimes it happens with the sons. But by and large, it's the women that just make this decision, and it's kind of a snap judgment thing. What this does, well, so what I will do is I will ask them, first, when I start to see that this is the case, I will ask them, how does your husband feel about this? What does he think about you having this dog in the first place? And generally the answer is rather vague-ish. The husband didn't really care, he didn't really mind, he doesn't like dogs too much, but he said it was okay, that type of thing. It was all right, whatever I wanted to do, and as a result, he's fairly aloof with the dog. Well, what that translates into, what the husband is really saying to her is, you know, honey, I know you're going to do what you want to do anyway, so you might as well just go ahead. Whatever. And I'll tell you what, that hurts a husband, that hurts a man. It causes him to be resentful in the long run if that keeps happening in other areas of the home, of your choices. And there again, this could be men to women too. It could go back and forth, but generally what I see is women. And I'm not trying to be critical in any way. But when you have a dog that's brought into the home where not everyone has agreed upon it, and that in itself causes a friction energy. So the dog picks up on the friction energy, and since he's a mirror of what you are and do, he will start to act out. So settle on it. Settle on it. Our show, the Shelter and Rescue show that we did, we sat down with the Gray family and had a very intricate interview and question and answer on, was everybody on the same page with getting the dog, and what type of dog would they like, and all the various details. We covered all the aspects to give you an idea of what you really should be doing before you even decide to, if you want a dog in the first place, let alone if you want a puppy from a breeder, a dog that a friend has that can't keep it anymore, one that's free on Craig's, or if you do want to go into the shelter and rescues. Now also a very important time to make this decision about your dogs is before you get married. If you're engaged to be married and your spouse has a dog or dogs, and maybe you do too, it's the same as bringing children together in a marriage where it's the second time around. Maybe this is your first marriage on both sides, but if you have dogs, it's essential that the dogs know how to get along, and we're showing you how to do that in this program. It's essential that both of you accept the other dog, and that it's not this my dog, your dog, your dog, your dog, this blaming thing about the other dog. It can really cause a lot of division in families. So do watch that. In the dynamics of your family, make sure that unity is key. In this segment, we're going to talk about the power of words. Now, we all know how much a good word can help us, encourage us, and lift us up, and a harsh word or condemning word, or a word that we've heard somebody said about us behind our back, we all know how much that can hurt and set us back. Phrases, negative words. I was thinking of phrases the other day, things that as a child my parents said that I still say, that I hear Michelle say now. I'm starting to think about the things I say a lot more. I'm sick and tired of this. I could have died. It just sucked the life right out of me. You'll catch your death. Scared me to death. We speak so much death and sickness and tiredness. And if you look around, the last chamber meeting I attended, which is actually our ambassadors meeting, one of the topics of discussion there while we were waiting for our lunch to come was that there were 154 children homesick from Malone School the day before. And one of the gals said, out of what, 160? I think there's out of 500 and plus. That's a lot of children homesick. A lot of people today are tired and they're not well. And there's just a lot of early death. There's so many diseases in the world. And I want to tell you that I do believe that, and I will show you the basis from which I'm taking this belief, that I think it's a fact that a lot of the problem for this is 2 inches below the nose. Now, I have to take you to scripture for this. I generally don't do this on this program, but in order to give you a foundation of what's truth and why, you have to know why it's important, if you're going to take the time to break those habits and think about your speech and what you say. Why do I do it? Is it really worth it? Is it really true? Is it worth the effort? Genesis 1 tells us about the creation. And God always spoke or said, and it came into being. So we see that words do create. And if God himself can create with words, and we are created in his image, then we can create with words too, positive or negative. Hebrews 11, I think it's in the 2nd verse, said that the worlds were framed by the word of God. Now, I'm not a preacher, and I'm not trying to preach to you. When I get on my soapbox on this show, it's usually a little bit more in terms of dog training. But this has everything in the world to do with your dog, your relationships, your household, your children. We'll be talking about children in just a moment. They're a whole separate category all by themselves. Okay, Proverbs, right pretty much in the middle of the Bible, says power of life and death is in the tongue, 2 inches below the nose. And that we are also, another proverb says that we are snared by the words of our mouth. A snare can be anything like a pit that you could fall in and die. It could be where you step in those loops that they have and then you're hung upside down. When you get snared, it's not good. Or maybe you're just walking through the woods and you get snagged on something that actually rips a hole in something that you are wearing that you like very much, and you find that that's very difficult to patch up and you might never be able to wear that again. We are snared by the words of our mouth. Now, how does this affect us with our dogs? This is a show called What Makes Your Dog Tick? But I want to remind you that at the beginning I did say that we're going to bring in the relationship aspect of this and go a little further that way too in terms of practical application. In applying this to your dog knows the energy you're sending. If you're even in a teasing way saying, good for nothing mutt, they'll pick that up, as they will pick up, of course, the encouraging positive things. Now, names of dogs. I touched on this in the puppy show instructional portion, and I want to expound on this just a little bit. When you give your dog a name, be certain that it is a name that is always keeping you on top and your puppy or dog at least slightly below you. And this is what I mean. When you name your dog, excuse the mic, when you name your dog a human name, and for those of you who already have named your dogs or have a dog that's come in from a shelter with a name, maybe you liked it or not, you're not going to change it, that's fine. There's nothing you can do about that. You can change a dog's name. I am okay with it, but I do not endorse it. So I would encourage you not to do that, and I realize that there are a lot of you out there watching who already have dogs that already have names. But if you have a choice, don't give your dog a human name and make them equal to you. Humans are humans and dogs are dogs. Also, names of royalty tend to put a stigma in your mind about your dog as to the hierarchy, up here, king, queenie, prince, and so forth. And then you're just the mere commoner. We don't want that. We always want you on top. Monster names for some of the bigger, more powerful breeds. And I want to insert on powerful breeds. This is very different from names and words, but as long as I'm on it, I don't want to forget to tell you that if you're a first-time dog owner about to be, I encourage you not to buy a powerful breed dog for your first time out, such as a Rottweiler, Doberman, German Shepherd, anything that are, Pit Bull, any of the more powerful breeds. They're great dogs, wonderful dogs, but they do need, they're a different animal, so to speak, and they really need more experience than a first-time dog owner. So getting back to the monster names, when you name a German Shepherd Killer or Jaws, and then people see that, they see that this German Shepherds tend to be intimidating even if they're just a little kitten inside. And so if they see that and they put the name together, they're already nervous because of the breed of the dog anyway. And they may not need to be, there may be absolutely no reason for that, but they don't know that if they're just meeting you and your dog. And then you say this is Killer, this is Jaws, they've already got some nervous energy coming out, which the dog is perceiving as weak. Now they're going to be just fearful. They may not be overtly, but they're going to send that fear out inadvertently, subconsciously. And the dog's going to pick up on that. And even a really good dog might get a little bit nervous or slightly aggressive with somebody who meets him, just for that reason. So I really discourage the monster names. And of course, degrading names as well on the other side of it. Most people tend to name their dogs either equal to them, human names, or higher above them. But there are degrading names, and those are just as harmful as well. We have had sessions with clients who have had very aggressive dogs, and just for an example, I'll pull one out of a hat. Cookie might have been the name of the dog. But the clients jokingly amongst themselves call him Cujo or Demon or Taz. And I will tell them as tactfully as I can, graciously as possible, that that is simply making matters worse. Whenever they do that, they're applying that negative, very powerfully negative energy that those names, such as Cujo or Demon or Taz or anything else you can think of that's very powerful and negative, to that dog. And because a dog is completely based on energy, they're kind of defeating the purpose of what the owner is trying to accomplish. They don't want the biting, and yet they're continuing to label the dog as something very evil and powerfully evil. So lift those labels off of the people in your life, off of yourself. That's a big one we didn't mention. And of course, since this show is called What Makes Your Dog Tick and Other Miscellany, off of your dog. And now for the big finale, children. People nowadays have noticed that over the years, children have gotten out of control. And this is simply because the parents really haven't known quite what to do. In some of our higher levels and in our schools, the teachers have been had their hands tied as to the reprimanding that they're allowed to do. And that has trickled down into the family as well. Parents are under the impression that they are not even allowed to spank their children anymore. Now, spanking is not beating. It's very different. And I'll talk about corporal punishment later. But the fact that we don't know what to do with our children, and we do live in a very affluent society, recession or not, means that we have children that have, first of all, a lot of stuff. They're not told no. There's no regulations on them, or very few, and they're being awarded freedoms and authority that they have not only not earned, but they have no idea what to do with. There again, I am not being critical to the parents. People perish for lack of knowledge, and that's what's happening here. So you'll hear a lot of similarities. If you've watched any of our prior shows, you'll hear a lot of similarities to the way that I talk about owners and their dogs. And at the end of this segment, I will tie that up for you. First of all, it's very important to expect good behavior from your children, whether they've been adopted or you brought them home from the hospital yourself, from day one. Now, with a little infant, there's a lot of figuring out, and everybody's in kind of a tumult for quite a while. But once you get things going and you've got a pattern and you're established, you need to make the same some rules, boundaries, and limitations for your children the same way that I always instruct you to do that for your dogs. Also, enforce them. Enforce it. Now, you can either teach your children one way or another. You can be proactive and positive about it, such as saying, okay, here's the deal. Here's what you can have, here's what you can't have. If you try to go over into the can't haves, there will be a consequence. This is what it will be. And then it's your job to enforce that consequence. Or you can count to 3, 6, 9, 12, and never do anything that you told them you would do. We had a gal living across the way. We had a wonderful summer several years back of all little children. Every child in the neighborhood except for 2 boys that were 4. All the other children were 2 and under, and it was a delight. The difficult thing for us was the parents. I had an alarm clock every morning at 9 o'clock. I was awakened to 1, 2, 3, and then she would yell out her little boy's name, and it just all began. And that was a tough summer for me, quite honestly. Now they're not anywhere near here anymore, so there's no issue with sharing that story. But the problem that I see with most parents when I do observe, and you can't help but in a grocery store, wherever you are, perhaps it is your neighborhood, is they don't back up what they throw out there so blithely in threats. I don't think threats are a good idea. I think you can tell your children, all right, here's how it's going to be, and here's what the consequence is going to be, and then just be sure you win. You enforce the consequence, make it realistic, make it a consequence that's fair. One thing we never did with Michelle, we tried never to give her her consequences in such a way that it would affect her friends or another family. For example, if she was going somewhere with her friends and their family, maybe to the museum for school, we wouldn't say, well, we'll take away that museum trip, because that would affect them too. They want her to go, and so really calculate what you're going to use as a consequence. Make sure it's fair to both of you, and like I've mentioned in the Dogs Issues and the Appropriate Corrections program, don't push a baby buggy with a 747 jet engine. Sometimes we get way on overkill, and sometimes we are just about pretty much pathetic. So we've got to find a balance there as parents. And there again, don't be too hard on yourself. It takes time to reestablish these things. But either way, you're teaching your child to respect you, or you're teaching them not to respect you. It doesn't matter what you do, if you're on it or not. Both are training. One works, one doesn't. Now I want to take you from the category of dog corrections that we touched on that we dealt with quite thoroughly actually, in the Dogs, Issues, and Their Appropriate Corrections Part 2 program, and show you correction for correction, paralleling with the dog and the child, how you can apply this. I sincerely love children very much, which is why I've devoted so much time in this program to them. I care about them, and they are our future. I would just like to see them be respectful and grow up to be happier people. A disrespectful person is a very unhappy person, and also a very unproductive person. And anybody who's unproductive in society becomes a weight then to society. So, if you remember, if you saw this show, the first correction that I talked about from lowest, most gentle to more extreme, the first one was for the dogs now. This is the dog side here, this is the children's side here, was a look. Sometimes when a dog is moving to, let's say, take a piece of meat off the table, all he has to do is see that you see him, and you're giving him the look, and he'll stop. Same with a child. You can do the same thing. Just some children, you can guide them with your eyes. They're very sensitive and gentle. Secondly, a word. For a dog, usually for me it's, hey. For a child, I would probably say, don't do that. No. Make sure it's firm, but there again, don't put it on overkill with the big, airplane engine to push a buggy. But please, please, one thing that you can do, if you just do one thing, omit from the sentence the word okay, because essentially what you're saying when you say anything to a child and then you go okay is you're asking their permission. Now, very rarely do we as parents ask our children for permission for anything. We might ask their input, their ideas, and we would do well to do so. But the last thing we need, there again, us being the pack leader, our child being the calm, submissive follower, and they're also calm and submissive, aren't they? The last thing the pack leader needs from the pack is permission. So this is a habit that is probably going to be more challenging than anything. I used to do this, and a good friend who cared enough about me called me on the carpet with that, and the minute she said it, I got it, latched onto it, and it was challenging to break the habit, but I never did it again. So when you're telling your child something with a word, it's no, not, honey, please don't get up in that chair now. Remember what mommy said. So you get down now, okay? See the difference, just the whole energy, it's very, very weak. And children will respond to you just the way your dogs will. All right, moving towards. Sometimes children are not so easily guided with your eyes or a word. And just as with a dog, you may have to move towards your child, but in a different fashion. You may just start walking towards them. You don't have to start, do the point thing. So there again, shape it for a human being as opposed to an animal. Now, blocking. If a dog is wanting to get up on a couch, I'll block him with my knee, with my hand. If he's wanting to look at another dog and he just won't give me his attention back when we're on a structured walk, I will just stop and turn around, get right in front of him, between him and the dog, and I'll just block him for a while. For your child, blocking would just be standing up higher. Now you've already moved towards the child, and so you need to stand up. Get your posture straight, and try if you can, unless you've got a 6'2" basketball playing 17-year-old son, try to get taller than that child. If you have to get a box, get a box. But at least square the shoulders, chin up, and say it firmly, like you mean it. You can say it with all the respect you can muster, but don't ask permission. Drop that okay off the end there. And no pleading. No bargaining, just as with dogs. People will bargain and talk to their dogs and all sorts of things. And dogs do understand an element of English when they hear things repeated over and over again. But the bargaining, you lose them within about the first 4 words. And it's the same with your children. And this is where children tune us out. Have you noticed that children, by and large, ignore you, even if they have no reason to ignore you? I will say hello to the children on the street. It's rare that a child will say hello to me back, even if I'm being friendly. Every now and then they're just really preoccupied doing their thing, and it's kind of cute, and they're just so focused. But generally, that's not the case at all. They've learned to tune us out, and that's why. Okay, now we get a little bit heavier here. With the dog, if all of that doesn't work, then you make a bite or a mouth with your hand, and under his chin in here, which is the area of submission on a dog, you take and go like this right here. No. And that's a really great way to redirect the energy or the attention of the dog back on you if you don't have a slip leash on him. If you have a slip leash on him, use that. Just pick it up, and very often he just needs to be kind of snapped out of it, and that works really well. Now here's where this really differs for children. We have a joke, and I never have said it one time, but when I tell when we go in for a session, a behavioral help for dogs session, we're working with our clients, they'll get this. They'll pick this parallel up fairly soon into the session, and they'll say, this is very much like we could train our kids this way, couldn't we? And I'll say, well, yeah, I totally endorse that, and I teach and promote that. Very much so. You'll do real well with your children once you grasp this and start applying it to your dog, minus the collar and leash. And they think for a minute and go, no, the collar and leash would be very helpful, actually. So, and I'll say, you said it, not me. So we joke about that. But since you can't do this to your child, and obviously put a collar and a leash on him, and we're not talking about anything of the kind here, what I would like to suggest, there's the timeout. There's the timeout. Those are very, very helpful. They're very healthy, and I think more adults would do well with timeouts. In our family, when we need to take a timeout, there's one rule. If you have to go away, if you have to get in the car and go away, if it's that red flag of a situation, which it usually isn't here, our rule is you tell everybody, I need a serious timeout, I'm going to go away, but I will be back probably in an hour or so. That way we don't worry and wonder, where they've gone. So be respectful with your timeouts. But a timeout is a very healthy thing for a child. However, it is not up in the category of corporal discipline. So timeouts are great. Holding time. Now when you make that bite on the dog, one thing that would also equal that would be holding time. holding time consists of, I have a friend that called it mommy jail, although I don't really like the word jail because it just considers, it equates bondage. But holding time is really literally taking a child who's having a tantrum, and you know 22-year-olds have tantrums now. I wouldn't recommend getting real close to them when they're having one because you could get hurt. But when you can control the child, scoop them up and just hold them real, real tight. And you just tell them, you know what? I'm here, it's going to be okay, and I'm not letting go until we both feel better. And you know what? That could take a while. So holding time is very, very effective. It just helps them settle down and get control. Just the way putting a slip collar on a dog, sometimes just putting the slip leash on a dog settles them right down. You might remember Pearl in that show, the beautiful Sheltie. Her owner told us, and we did it right there on the show, that when she gets to be pacing and nervous, she'll just, the dog that is, Louise, the owner, just puts the slip collar on her and she settles right down. So sometimes this can be your slip collar for your child, right here. Puts them close to the heart. You're not giving them affection during this time. This is not a time of affection. This is just a time that says, we're going to get through this, and I'm not going to let go until you can stop being destructive and be respectful. Now, the dominance ritual. We're showing you this on today's program because I've spoke of it so many times. We wanted you to actually see the things that we do. And that, of course, is putting the dog down on his side. Sometimes it takes two people, one for the front, one for the back legs. Every now and then I'll have to straddle the dog, not sit on him. You know, I'll hold myself up a little bit so I'm not going to crack a rib. But whatever it takes to keep that dog down. Now that is what I call go to guns. That's the bottom line. That's the last thing we have. And you know, it just works great. It settles them down. It is nothing like dominance ritual to really redirect that attention, show them you mean business, and so forth. Now for a child, you could get your holding time in that category. But also, there is where you would go to, if none of these things are working, a spanking. When Michelle was younger, we called it a switch. The hand should always be an object of love, so I would encourage not to use the hand to thwap them with. And of course, you do it here, you know, right here in this area. God put a little extra padding there so they can handle it. And no, it's not illegal in this country, contrary to what you might have been told. Use just a little kind of a switch, perhaps something that you might pick outside, willowy, that's just not something, you know, just you choose what you want to use. The point is not the hand. And don't do it in such a fit of rage that you will hurt the child. They say, I think the ratio is 1 switch per year. 3-year-old, boop, boop, boop. And then help them get calm down and, you know, kind of sit there with them and talk about it a little bit. The younger they are, the less you're going to be able to talk because they really won't understand. The older they are, the more you can talk. Up till they're about in the 10-year-old range, then you have to change that. Spankings aren't going to be very effective after 10 years old. They're going to be more degrading and humiliating and do the opposite of what you want. And then when it's over, help them to dry it up and move on, just like with the dog. When you have made a correction on a dog, be it a quick one or a dominance ritual that might take 20 minutes, when you're done, it never happened. It's over. And I would always tell Michelle, you know what, honey? We're going to think of this as though it never happened. The only thing I want you to remember is that it did have a consequence with it so that you won't do this again. So also, as far as affection, lastly, to wrap this up, as far as affection, same with a dog. When you give affection to your child, you are enforcing behavior. Be sure you keep affection and cooing and soothing out of the disciplinary actions, such as the word okay, or I've seen parents actually go to their children after they have disciplined them, even if it was as extreme as a spanking, and apologize. Never apologize for your actions unless, of course, they were far too overbearing. Then, by all means, apologize. That happens once in a while, but that's, by and large, that's not what we're talking about here. So save your affection for when affection is due. Get on down the road and just get as good as you can, as quick as you can, and forget it. Don't remind them and rub that in all night long. Okay, I think we're ready to move on. Isn't it a beautiful day? Such a nice day.
Hey lady, can I pet your dog?
Well, sure.
Hi doggy. Bye now.
Bye. Now, such a nice young girl, don't you think? Come on, let's go.
Hi lady, can I pet your dog?
Foofy, it's a mugger. Let mother handle this. Lady, I have a poopy pickup and I know how to use it. Now, just keep moving and nobody gets hurt.
Sorry, I asked. Oh.
Foofy, we must be in a bad part of town, darling. Let's go.
Hey, can I pet your dog?
Actually, he's in training today, so he's not allowed any visitors.
Oh, okay.
Now, of the 3 scenarios that we've painted for you, I'll give you 3 guesses as to which one we would recommend.
This is the gentle leader. This is the illusion collar. This is the gentle leader halter. This is the halty, the slip leash, the martingale, the chain collar, and finally, the prong collar.